While Lu Fan was feeling pleased, the sudden appearance of another Lu Fan startled everyone. Tao Xiaoman even drew her sword to attack, though it was not clear if she wanted personal revenge or was truly frightened by seeing two Lu Fans standing together. Lu Fan quickly explained, and everyone realized the other Lu Fan was a summoned mirror image projection, not some desert illusion. Such an interesting skill fascinated them, especially Tao Xiaoman, who wanted to try it herself. Unfortunately, Xiao Ku's skill could only be used on friendly units, Lu Fan and his pets and summons, not on others. So Tao Xiaoman would never get to see an identical mirror image projection of herself. However, she was quite crafty. After learning this was Lu Fan's mirror image projection, with only 60% of his attributes, she proposed a PvP match with the mirror image projection. She figured while losing to Lu Fan was normal, surely she could not possibly lose to his mirror image projection, right? The result proved the opposite of her thoughts. Lu Fan's mirror image projection could use all of his skills, so it simply used Flash Spirit Leap to appear beside Tao Xiaoman and easily knocked away her weapon with one sword strike. There was no help for it. Even at 60%, the attribute gap was still too large. It was still able to completely effortlessly dominate Tao Xiaoman. So, the sparring match ended as quickly as it began. Tao Xiaoman went completely emo afterwards, swearing never to spar with that monster again. Everyone laughed, then continued forward along the map route. After another half hour and several waves of monsters, Lu Fan's Black Dragon Perception passive triggered, making him stop. Ahead, within a 1-kilometer radius, the previously calm desert suddenly seemed to sense Lu Fan's group approaching and began to boil. It was as if what was underneath them was not sand but a pot of boiling water. Immediately after, a massive quicksand vortex formed, its area of effect far exceeding any monster wave the group had seen before. "Looks like the boss is about to appear," Lu Fan casually said, causing everyone else to turn solemn. They were now clearly preparing for battle. Sure enough, from the center of the quicksand vortex, monsters began to emerge. They seemed to have mastered the power to control the quicksand. They were walking on it as if it was solid ground. This time, they were more lifelike tyrant's attendants. Their skin was intact, looking almost identical to when they were alive except for their blank expressions. However, many magic runes appeared on their bodies, granting them power far exceeding what they had in life. They were monsters called Tyrant's Attendant Corps. They were all level 70 difficult boss, platinum equivalent to level 75 gold grade boss. There were 30 of them in total, definitely troublesome enemies for the average player. A team of players would need to separate them and defeat one by one. After the Tyrant's Attendant Corps emerged from the quicksand vortex, a chariot gradually appeared. It was made of pure gold, decorated with countless gems, clearly invaluable at first glance. On the chariot stood a monster with a massive body over 5 meters tall. It had a unique appearance. Its upper half was that of a giant with crimson skin, wielding a steel trident, wearing a crown with runes covering its body. Its lower half was similar to that of a scorpion, with armor and 8 limbs, plus a huge black scorpion tail. Lu Fan immediately cast appraisal on it. As expected, this monster was called the Cursed Tyrant. This was the king who had sunk into the quicksand vortex who knows how many years ago. The attribute panel had a brief introduction about him, basically saying, the king's greed caused him to sink into the depths of the Death Desert Ocean, along with his treasure chest. However, he remained alive till this day, not able to part this world with death. At the depths, he triggered a mysterious power beneath the Death Desert Ocean. This mysterious power merged with the original shaman's curse. Combined with the tyrant's greed and selfishness, it had transformed him into his current form. Now, his brutality has increased, and he gained control over the Death Desert Ocean, becoming its new ruler. Anyone who enters the Death Desert Ocean would be killed by him, and their treasures would be plundered, stored in his treasure chest. This boss was unsurprisingly a level 70 nightmare boss. Combined with so many boss attendants, clearing this would indeed be difficult for ordinary players. However, for Lu Fan, who had solo cleared the dark castles, this was merely child's play. Xiao Kui, Fallen Corpse, Holy Dragon Kings, give our mad hell demon here some buffs. Lu Fan commanded, not planning personally to action. Xiao Kui responded with a Fai Yi and began casting various skills on Mad Hell Demon, causing its attributes to dramatically surge. More terrifyingly, Xiao Kui also used her Jade Mirror Image skill. Instantly, 3 Mad Hell Demons stood side by side, all almost identical. Although each Mad Hell Demon mirror image projection only had 1/3 of the original Mad Hell Demon's combat power after Xiao Kui's buffs, each mirror image projection's attributes became absurdly high. They were not much worse than the original's base attributes. That was not all. The Fallen Corpse Holy Dragon Kings also had their Holy Light Radiance Aura skill, which could simultaneously affect all 3 Mad Hell Demons. Under various enhancement skills, any random mirror image projection would be no weaker than the original Mad Hell Demon's base form. As for the original Mad Hell Demon, its attributes increased enormously, power likely approaching that of a level 95 epic boss, a nightmare. The cursed tyrant, having just emerged from the quicksand vortex, had no idea what kind of enemy he was about to face. He just pointed his steel trident at Lu Fan's group and opened his mouth, hoarse voice rolling like thunder. Humans who have strayed into my death desert ocean, hand over all your treasures. If you do, I can turn you into dried corpses, buried forever in the sand, rather than food for the ugly, filthy death sandworms. Before the cursed tyrant could finish speaking, Bao Bao could no longer contain his aggressive nature and soared into the sky. Instantly, roaring thunder, heaven's punishment, and chain lightning were simultaneously cast. They bombarded the cursed tyrant and the tyrant's attendant corpses. The entire quicksand vortex was filled with lightning, turning into a pool of lightning, with lightning bolts frantically bombarding all the bosses there. Bao Bao's unreasonable attack caught the cursed tyrant completely off guard. Although Bao Bao's skill damage was impressive, his level was still far too low to instantly kill the cursed tyrant. Moreover, his skills caused the cursed tyrant great pain and enraged him. "You dare to resist? In that case, I'll bury you in this yellow sand!" The cursed tyrant endured Bao Bao's skills while raising his steel trident up high. Instantly, the entire Death Desert Ocean seemed to obey his command. The previously silent desert in the distance suddenly rose like a tidal wave, forming a 100-meter high wave that swept toward everyone. Everyone felt as if they were standing in seawater, not only rising and falling, but their feet were also sinking. They were temporarily trapped in place, unable to escape. All around, they could see giant waves formed by sand, approaching from all directions. Being caught under them would certainly be dangerous. This boss really does have some tricks up his sleeve. This skill alone could most likely wipe out teams of players coming to clear this dungeon. Seeing the girls getting nervous, Lu Fan had Xiao Kui give everyone Jade Shield while ordering the Mad Hell Demons to attack. The 3 Mad Hell Demons leaped up simultaneously, easily escaping the sand trap. They soon began spinning their iron maces. In the blink of an eye, the iron maces in the 3 Mad Hell Demons' hands expanded to hundreds of meters long, as thick as 2 humans' embrace, like 3 pillars supporting the sky. Up in the sky, the Mad Hell Demon's strongest attack skill, Mad Sky Breaker Strike, was activated. The 3 Mad Hell Demons wielded their iron maces like iron whips, frantically smashing down on the cursed tyrant and his attendants. All that could be seen were the shadows of thick iron maces continuously dancing, stirring the entire quicksand vortex into chaos, nearly dispersing even Bao Bao's skills. Occasionally, when the 3 Mad Hell Demons' Mad Sky Breaker strikes collided, they would create massive sparks and thunder like explosions. How could the cursed tyrant possibly withstand such a fierce barrage of attacks? He and his poor attendants, under the barrage of the 3 iron maces, were as fragile as paper dolls. 1 Mad Hell Demon alone was enough to sweep away the cursed tyrant. Yet, this was 3 Mad Hell Demons enhanced with multiple buffs, all combined. They naturally could instantly kill the cursed tyrant! In the quicksand vortex, neither the cursed tyrant nor the tyrant's attendant corpse escaped from the mad-hell demon's iron maces. They became the shortest-lived boss and boss attendants. The surrounding sand waves had not even reached Lu Fan's group before subsiding. After all, the cursed tyrant who cast the skill was now shattered by Mad Hell Demon's mad sky breaker strikes. His body broken to pieces. With the caster dead, the skill naturally got interrupted. This allowed Chin Chiu and the others to secretly sigh in relief. They were also marveling at how the Mad Hell Demon truly deserved its reputation as one of the historical 9 Hell Demons, displaying such terrifying power under Xiao Kui's skills. It was hard to imagine what kind of scene it would be if Lu Fan's entire 9 Hell Demons army attacked together. Add to that 6 pet dragons. Lu Fan's combat power could no longer be described simply as terrifying. After the main boss and his boss attendants were all beaten to death, a massive amount of experience points once again caused golden light to flash over.
Oh, it's over so quickly!
Tao Xiaoman looked at her sword, only half drawn, finally realizing what had happened. Looking ahead, the original quicksand vortex no longer has quicksand flowing, as the curse of the Death Desert Ocean disappeared with the cursed tyrant's death. However, where the cursed tyrant had been, there was now a crater dozens of meters deep from the mad clubbing of 3 iron maces. Thinking back to the Mad Hell Demon's barrage earlier, Tao Xiaoman unconsciously gulped. Seeing how slow her reaction had been, Lu Fan flicked her forehead and said with a smile, "Of course it's over. Come on, let's quickly find out where the lost treasure is. Once we find it, we can consider this dungeon instance cleared."
Oh,
That hurts! Lu Fan.
you bastard!
Don't think I won't hit you just because you're strong! Tao Xiaoman covered her forehead, where she had been flicked, grimacing in pain while fighting with Lu Fan. The others were used to this sight. After all, this was not the first time Lu Fan and Tao Xiaoman bickered and fought. Now that the boss was dead and the entire dungeon had become quiet, with no quicksand vortex appearing and no monsters spawning, everyone gathered near the boss's corpse to search for the lost treasure needed for the mission. However, with the quicksand vortex gone, there was nothing here except monster corpses and yellow sand. Everyone used their weapons as tools to search through the sand below. Even Xiao Yi, the fallen corpse holy dragon kings, and other pet dragons were digging through the sand, determined to dig at least a meter deep to find the lost treasure. However, after searching for a while, everyone came up empty-handed. Finally, Han Ke cleverly noticed something unusual about the cursed tyrant's corpse. Although he had been beaten to death by the Mad Hell Demons, his lower half, the scorpion-like body, was relatively intact. It was unlike the other body parts that had been smashed by the iron mace. Han Ke wondered, since the cursed tyrant valued his treasure chest so much, could he have hidden it inside his own body? Han Ke shared this idea with Lu Fan, who found it reasonable. Subsequently, Lu Fan had the Mad Hell Demons take action by smashing open the relatively intact lower half. The scorpion-like body was indeed very sturdy. Even the original Mad Hell Demon had to strike 5 times before completely breaking open this lower half. If it were any other player, they probably would not be able to break through this boss's remains in 3 days. And this dungeon is truly interesting. Before Lu Fan could marvel further, a gray mist burst from the cursed tyrant's shattered corpse, instantly spreading and enveloping everyone. Immediately, everyone's faces turned grayish, yellow, clearly affected by some kind of debuff. Lu Fan, being immune to all debuffs, naturally showed no changes. Seeing that the boss was like a cockroach that would not die even after death, and had even set such a trap for them at the end, Lu Fan got somewhat annoyed.
Xiao Ku!
At Lu Fan's command, Xiao Kui immediately understood. Light appeared around her body as rays of jade light shone on everyone, helping clear this unknown debuff. The debuff effect was very strong. Although Lu Fan and Xiao Kui reacted quickly, the momentary debuff effect still made all 4 girls feel unwell with their faces pale. Han Ke, who had the lowest attributes, even fell on her bottom, clutching her chest, having difficulty breathing. "Artie, are you okay?" Lu Fan hurried over to help her up. After taking a few seconds, Henki's complexion recovered a little. She forced a smile at Lu Fan. "I'm fine. I was poisoned by the boss earlier." Although Xiao Kui cleared it, the dizzy and nauseous feeling did not immediately go away. "Even so, I'm much better now. I actually don't feel anything unusual. I just need more time to recover." "That's good." Lu Fan sighed in relief, then looked toward the other three girls, asking about their condition. Jian Ying and others also indicated that although they still felt some discomfort, it was just the lingering effects of the debuff. It was nothing serious. Lu Fan was completely relieved. He viciously cursed. "This bastard is really nasty, setting up such a trick even after death. Next time we run this again, I'll personally take action and cut him to pieces." The four girls could not help but laugh at this. This incident was just a small episode, and they had already moved past it. Actually, Lu Fan had already considered whether the remains of the boss might explode. That was why he had the Mad Hell demons continue to attack the corpse instead of doing it himself. He believed that his position and that of his auntie and the others was far enough from the corpse. So far that even if something unexpected happens, they would not get affected by it. However, he had not expected the boss to be so vicious, with poison gas that could spread so quickly and affect such a wide area. It was apparent he would need to be even more careful in the future. Lu Fan looked at the boss's corpse. After the hard shell of the lower half was broken, sure enough, it revealed a huge treasure chest made of some unknown metal. The treasure chest gleamed with gold and was decorated with various gems. Both the chest's material and the gems must be extremely precious materials. Lu Fan smiled at this sight and said to Tao Xiamen, "Here's the wealth to rival a nation that you've been dreaming of. Tao Zi, why don't you go and open the chest? Maybe you'll become richer than your father." Tao Zi shook her head like a rattled drum.
No, that's fine.
"I'm afraid if I open this chest, not only won't I get richer than my father, I might have to leave this world earlier than him." Lu Fan smiled and immediately sent his cannon fodder, the Mad Hell demons, forward to open the treasure chest. When the chest opened, white light burst forth with no unexpected surprises. As Lu Fan had anticipated, there were no more tricks, not from inside the chest. Instead, it contained the completion reward for this dungeon instance. The white light gathered and split into 5 clusters, appearing before everyone. It seemed like the first clear of this dungeon instance indeed provided generous rewards.
There were as many as 5 items.
However, everyone was very conscientious and did not move to take the rewards. They were clearly waiting for their team leader, Lu Fan, to distribute the items. Lu Fan did not stand on ceremony. He immediately stepped forward to disperse the white light of the first reward. The first reward made Lu Fan break into a huge smile. After all, this was all just too perfect for him. It was actually a no-level requirement enchantment scroll. Seeing that the first reward was such a valuable scroll, the other girls also smiled with joy. They all knew this item was worth a lot, able to sell for a good number of dragon coins. Lu Fan naturally did not hesitate. After taking the scroll, he said to the others with a smile, "I'll take this scroll first, because I have a good piece of equipment that could make best use of this." The other girls naturally had no objection. In fact, to them, even if all the rewards went to Lu Fan, they would not mind. After all, this dungeon was essentially entirely cleared thanks to Lu Fan. He basically carried them. They were already satisfied just getting experience points. Lu Fan did not waste time holding the scroll. He immediately took out his Dragon Hunter's Will, Golden Dragon King helmet, and enchanting it. Instantly, the helmet's level requirement was removed, and Lu Fan could equip it. This helmet actually looked quite impressive, appearing quite majestic when worn. However, Lu Fan was still not used to having something like this on his head, so he chose to hide it. This was a function similar to the Flying Dragon King's bone wings. When the girls saw Lu Fan use such a precious scroll on a helmet, they naturally became very curious about it. For Lu Fan to use such a precious scroll, this helmet must not be any ordinary item. Tao Xiaoman was not reserved in the least. She directly asked if the helmet was diamond grade, which warranted the use of a no-level requirement enchantment scroll. Lu Fan smiled and directly showed the item panel for the Dragon Hunter's Will Golden Dragon King helmet. He directly showed it to everyone. Instantly, everyone fell silent. They exploded. This is a mythical grade item, and a level 90 mythical grade item at that! Currently, among all the girls' equipment, the best was Jian Ying's swords, which were just top-quality gold-grade weapons. Yet, Lu Fan was already equipping mythical grade items? Never mind mythical grade. For ordinary people, having even one diamond grade item would be enough to be considered a high flyer in everyone's eyes. Epic grade items could be considered a pipe dream. In fact, being able to see one in item panel form would be worth bragging about for years. As for mythical grade items, everyone had only seen them in textbooks. In this world, the item panels for mythical grade items could be counted on one hand. So, seeing that Lu Fan's helmet was a level 90 mythical grade item, even someone as cool and composed as Jian Ying could not retain her composure. No, she basically lost all composure. Han Qi was even more observant. Looking at the 2 in Lu Fan's equipment set bonus column, she hesitantly asked, "Fanner, your equipment set bonus shows that you've activated 2 pieces of the equipment set's additional traits. Doesn't that mean you have another mythical grade item currently equipped?" Lu Fan had nothing to hide from his auntie and nodded. "Yeah, my belt is also part of this equipment set. It is also a level 90 mythical grade item." This statement again triggered the girls' envy and jealousy. Just one such item could serve as an entire noble family's heirloom. Yet Lu Fan not only had 1 but 2, able to activate a 2-piece equipment set bonus. Tao Xiaoman was almost crying. She stared fixedly at Lu Fan's item panel with teary eyes. "We're all human. How can there be such a big gap between us? It's one thing that Lu Fan has so many powerful pet dragons, but he even has mythical grade equipment. With attribute enhancement higher than my base attributes, how is this fair? Where is the justice in this world?" Just looking at this one equipment, everyone could already guess that Lu Fan's attributes could not be measured by level alone. Perhaps his attributes were already equivalent to 4th profession players. Lu Fan also noticed that after equipping 2 pieces of the Dragon Hunter's Will equipment set, the Golden Dragon King Bloodline release skill had leveled up to LV2. Now, the Golden Dragon King Bloodline release skill effect has dramatically changed. Golden Dragon King Bloodline release active skill LV2 releases the Dragon Hunter's Will remaining in the equipment. Gains the Golden Dragon King Ultimate Shield's Bloodline power. Enable one's body to transform into the Golden Dragon King. Once transformed, user will receive Strength Luffs level X100 Agility Sus level X100 Mana Fa level X100 Endurance Fuff level 400 cannot enter riding state while transformed into Golden Dragon King. The attributes provided by this transformation skill had doubled. With this equipment set, Lu Fan could surpass many high-level players. In the future, he would not even need Xiao Ye and the others. He could depend on himself to become a powerful Golden Dragon King. Happily closing the item panel, Lu Fan continued to check the next reward. When the glow of the second reward dispersed, Lu Fan discovered it was a crafting recipe. Moreover, it was a crafting recipe for cooks. Crafting recipe Flying Newpie Candy, profession requirement Enchanted Cook. Description after use, user will be able to master the method of cooking Flying Newpie Candy. Flying Newpie Candy after consumption, user will be able to fly for 2 hours. A consumable that could let others fly. This is a true treasure! It was perfect. After all, Jian Ying and the others currently could not fly, as they do not have any flight skills. But now, they could just eat this candy and their maneuverability would drastically improve. This is especially useful in dungeon instances with harsh environments. Although the Flying Newpie Candy name was quite worthy of ridicule. This was definitely a priceless treasure. Generally speaking, dungeon rewards would adjust somewhat based on the people clearing the dungeon instance. They would usually reward those clearing the dungeon with items they could use. Such a crafting recipe was naturally prepared by the dungeon specifically for Han-Kei. This naturally needed to be given to her. Han-Kei smiled as she accepted it, using it immediately. However, according to her, the materials needed for the candy were not currently available, so she could only make a few after they returned to Dragon Capital University. Fortunately, it was not an urgent need for the team, so it was fine if it could not be made right now. Lu Fan continued opening boxes, starting to check the third reward. Searching paper doll, special item. Description, when used, provides guidance to the target's location. Can only be used on those who have undergone their first profession change. This item can only be used 3 times. This item caught Lu Fan's attention. After all, if he had this in the National Trial Secret Realm, he would have hunted Charles and his group down long ago. This searching paper doll is quite useful. As for its 3-use limitation, that can be completely ignored with Xiao Qiu's Devour and Assimilate. So, Lu Fan took the searching paper doll and directly fed it to Xiao Qiu. Thus, Xiao Qiu gained another functional skill. In the future, if Lu Fan wanted to find someone, he could use the searching paper doll skill. Next, Lu Fan looked at the 4th reward. The 4th reward was a pair of platinum-grade mage boots with high attribute bonuses. Not only did it come with a skill, it also increased light element magic damage. It was perfectly tailored for Qin Qiu. This equipment naturally went to Qin Qiu. The 5th reward was also a platinum-grade equipment, but it was a longsword this time. Although it was also platinum-grade, its attributes were extremely good, even surpassing Qin Qiu's mage robe. By all rights, this weapon should be given priority to Lu Fan. However, Lu Fan saw that Tao Xiaoman clearly wanted it. She even deliberately turned her head away, pretending to be indifferent. He could not help but smile and directly gave the sword to her.
Tao Zi, this sword is yours. Huh? What? For me?
Tao Xiaoman was overjoyed, but a moment later she became solemn and hesitantly asked, "But you use swords too. Shouldn't this sword be given to you first?" Lu Fan smiled, taking out his flaming meteor sword, explaining, "I already have my perfect weapon. I don't need any other. Unless you want to look at mine for comparison."
I don't want to look at it.
Tao Xiaoman could tell, just by looking at its impressive appearance, that it must be much stronger than the reward. It was most likely at least a diamond-grade weapon. After all, this was Lu Fan who was showing off. How could his weapon be anything ordinary? Tao Xiaoman did not want to get depressed. Not by this bastard again, or she would question life even more. The platinum-grade longsword from the dungeon rewards would certainly be of no use to Lu Fan. Since that was the case, Tao Xiaoman did not stand on ceremony anymore and happily accepted the sword. She even caressed it in her hands with obvious love. However, since this was a level 70 dungeon instance, Tao Xiaoman's longsword and Qin Qiu's mage robe had high-level requirements, a minimum level of 50. These 2 girls were still far from being able to equip their new equipment, so they next needed to focus on leveling up. The 5 rewards were quickly distributed, but honestly, Lu Fan still felt somewhat unsatisfied. After all, this was a newly cleared level 70 nightmare dungeon instance. Although it gave everyone 5 rewards, the items overall did not satisfy Lu Fan, who held higher expectations. For the first clear of this dungeon, the rewards seemed rather stingy. Lu Fan pursed his lips and said to the girls, "I think if we run it a few more times, we should be able to get better rewards." Jian Ying nodded, saying, "Yes, the first few clears of a dungeon usually have very generous rewards. After about 7 or 8 runs, the rewards gradually decrease. Perhaps if we run this dungeon again, we might get even more rewards than this." "Yeah," Lu Fan smiled. "Let's try to get some rewards that Jian Ying can use next on our next run." From the dungeon rewards, basically everyone got something they needed, except Jian Ying, who came away empty-handed. Hearing Lu Fan say this, Jian Ying's face turned slightly red. Though she tried to show no reaction, she still had to say, "I don't mind, we can just wait until the next time." Ha ha ha. Lu Fan chuckled. "That won't do! We need to make sure everyone benefits from the dungeon rewards. Since we've run through the dungeon once from start to finish now, next time we run it, we should be able to improve our time. We might even be able to do 2 runs in a day. But for now, we're all tired after running this dungeon all day. Let's go out and rest first, then continue tomorrow." Everyone naturally agreed. Just then, the treasure chest had transformed into a transport array to leave this place. Lu Fan took the lead, bringing everyone to step onto the transport array to leave. While Lu Fan had been running the dungeon for a day, the outside world had turned into chaos.